Yeah, in the city of Berkeley. That would be my guess if we were going to bring in Mike Silver, right? Let's get Mike Silver in here, San Francisco Chronicle, talk a little Niner football, the Chiefs on the way into town. Is that your favorite California city, Mike?
Oh, I love every California city, and I'll be in Berkeley Saturday night, I can tell you that.
Beautiful.
Way to play it right down the middle, Mike. That's so solid. I love all my cities.
I'm not one of those talk about current location guys. Like, nobody knows where I am right now. People put on social media like, is that you at the Yankee game? I'm like, I don't know. Is it?
I don't know.
So you on Telegraph, Mike? Are you on University? Where are you right now?
I might be in some other place. You just don't know.
There's Carmen Sandiego, and then there's Mike Silver, and nobody knows where they are. But, Mike, we do know you're a Cal guy, but the question is a Stanford guy, Christian McCaffrey, going to play for the 49ers at some point?
I mean, I guess it's possible, but when you look at the 49ers right now, are you looking at a team going, man, if they could just have another banged-up running back,
right.
Like that would put him over the top. Like, can Christian McCaffrey stop the run, like, on the interior of the line? Because Eric Armstead and Javon Kinlaw are both hurt. Can he cover? Maybe, actually. But, I just, first of all, they're down assets. I don't know if you guys know this, but they traded 3 first-round picks to move up to draft Trey Lance with the 3rd overall pick. So it's not like they're brimming with draft capital. We hear people freak out about the cap all the time. I'm one who believes the cap can always be finessed. But if you're one of those people who freak out about the cap and how they're going to pay this guy, and the 49ers do have some guys they're going to need to pay, McCaffrey has a high cap number next year if you're looking ahead to next year. And, I think we've seen in the Shanahan offense and in the Mike Shanahan offense before that you can find running backs to be really good who aren't marquee guys. So I would say if it's me, I'm not looking to make that deal, but, the Panthers might unload him for very little just to move on. I don't know how many other teams are in, and maybe the 49ers feel like if Christian McCaffrey can, open up that offense, that would be worth it in the short term. It doesn't seem to me like the deal you would do. You've got Trent Williams hopefully coming back, but a very untested offensive line, and Mike McGlinchey now banged up, and you just lost to a team that probably the 3 of us, if we put our heads together before that game, could have named like 6 people on the roster, right. And the Niners were injured, but the Falcons pounded them. And by the way, pounded them with running backs who are not considered marquee backs. I mean, if Cordero Patterson had been healthy in that game for the Falcons, it would have looked worse. Arthur Smith was running the Titan stuff. If Derrick Henry had been on the other end of that, I don't even want to think about it.
And I'm reading your piece right now, Mike, and you're talking about last week's game against Atlanta and whether or not it was a blueprint for how to beat the 49ers. Was it a blueprint on how to win the game? And if so, is Kansas City constructed to be a team that can follow that blueprint?
I mean, it's a blueprint on how to beat them now, again, with Kittle and Armstead out. And they do have great depth on the defensive line, but it's obviously being tested. And Bosa was out, although it wouldn't have been a Bosa kind of game when the quarterback only, passes 14 times. So, I think if you are that type of team constructed that way, you can do that. The Rams would have a hard time without a fullback. And, if you want to line up Ben Skoranek at fullback and try to pound the ball with one of your remaining running backs, if you're the Rams, good luck to you. But, I do think that, we've all seen the stats on Kyle Shanahan teams and fourth quarter comebacks. It's not pretty. I would note that, in a do or die game at the end of last season, they did, drive down for a touchdown against the Rams, in the final minutes and then force overtime and win. But for the most part, they have, comebacks haven't been their thing. They drafted a guy who finally gives them a deep threat, Danny Gray, and he's had a hard time even convincing Kyle to make him active. So, I don't know what's up with that. Sure seems like you'd want to stretch it a little bit. But, I don't know. I do know that what I saw, which to me was kind of alarming, and we all remember the Donovan McNabb Super Bowl 39 late drive when they were down 2 scores, and they acted like it was the second quarter of a September game and casually drove down and scored a touchdown and then didn't recover an onside kick and lost. Well, the Niners got the ball with, more than 10 minutes to go, down 14 points, and they went on what turned out to be a 19-play drive if you count the 3 penalties on center Jake Brendel. They huddled on 16 of those 19 attempted snaps, and they snapped the ball relatively late in the play clock, and the drive ended up taking more than 8 minutes, producing 0 points, and the Falcons got the ball back with a little more than 2 minutes remaining. So that doesn't scream urgency to me. I know Kyle tried to explain it in the press conference afterward, but I thought that was not, a real endorsement of, hey, this team, if you get them in a hole, they will fight right out of it in the clutch. Like, will they? I mean, I feel like they'll fight, really, 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 really slowly. Try to get out of it.
Yeah, that was weird. And there was another thing coming out of that game that I think was certainly a new one for 49er fans, was George Kittle sort of questioning someone's effort on the field. And we don't really have a definitive view of what that is, but what was your take on that, Mike, and who might he have been talking about?
That's a great question, but I would say this, George Kittle has earned the right to say those things because he is all effort. And, honestly, watching Kittle and Devo at the end of that game when it was futile, and they clearly weren't going to be able to come back, barring a miracle, he and Devo were still trying to run through like 8 people, and I had very mixed emotions. I was like, given the fact that all these good players are injured and you're not going to win this game, maybe your 2 most important offensive skill players shouldn't be taking on 6 people each play rationally. But I also, of course, loved and respected it because that's who those guys are, and they're tone setters and they're defiant, and that's carried the 49ers to great heights or helped carry them. So, I'll try to dig into that a little more, but I do, I believe in George Kittle's effort as much as any players in the league or any player's effort in the league. He is a self-made guy who was not supposed to be a star in this league, and he gives that effort when he doesn't have the ball, when he's on the backside, when he has no chance for glory. He still does that, and if he believes that there's not enough effort, I tend to believe that he's probably seeing it clearly.
So the effort has to be in place on Sunday against the Chiefs, but what else can they do to try to counteract Patrick Mahomes and an offense that looks to be a tough matchup for a beleaguered Niners defensive front?
Yeah, I mean, they can pray. Patrick Mahomes doesn't always look amazing. He usually does. In the second half of the AFC Championship game, bizarrely, he looked terrible, and I don't know exactly what they did schematically, the Bengals, but he just didn't trust it himself. And at the end of that Bills game, Von Miller pressured him, and he couldn't, the receivers, you don't have Tyreek Hill to just, run past everybody, and they weren't separating like they have, sometimes in the past. Travis Kelce's very, very good at getting open, but the Niners at full strength, I think, would give them a run for their money because you've got Bosa and other pass rushers, Ebukam. You've got the ability on the inside with Armstead, especially to, disrupt him and flush him out. And then Charvarius Ward, former Chief, has turned into a pure lockdown corner. Now, he hurt his groin, and we're not sure he's going to be able to go. Mosley, obviously, is out for the year. So now you're playing DBs that, are not accustomed to, being in that elevated position. And then you've got Jimmy Ward trying to play with a club on his hand, literally, a cast that looks like a club. And that guy is gutty and will do everything he can, but that's not optimal either. He joked when I saw him in the locker room that he probably won't get called for defensive holding. or PI with
Nice.
with a club. But although knowing NFL refs, he'll probably get called for roughing the passer just for having a club. Yeah, so Hufanga coming off a concussion, hopefully he plays. Tayshaun Gibson's been a really good, steady veteran presence, but without Treverius Ward, either at full strength or at all, it's going to be that much tougher. And Bosa, coming back from the groin is obviously going to have to do Nick Bosa things.
Mike Silver with us here on Willard and Dibs 95.7 The Game. Yeah, I don't think we're talking enough about Mooney Ward. It's all kind of Bosa, Trent Williams. Let's see if Hufanga can get through protocol. I mean, Ward, he was tweeting about this game the second last week was done. It's a big deal for him going against the Chiefs. But do you think, Mike, that is this kind of the same as the way they handled Bosa last week with the same injury, that they're probably going to keep him out? And B, if that is the case, I mean, who's covering receivers this week?
Well, they kept Bosa out because they understood what they were facing, which was on turf, a team that just wanted to pound the ball and not throw it ideally very much. And they put all that math together, and they were like, yeah, we could get him back this week, we think, but is it worth the risk of hurting it more when he's just going to get run at the entire day? And so that's what happened there. But, corner is different than edge rusher, and groins are different, right? Because Joey Bosa has a groin injury, and that's going to be months. So I just, it's not my groin, and I am not a groin inspector. In NFL locker rooms, fortunately for me, because I don't think it would be well received. But I just, I don't know the answer to that, but I do know that it's not an either or, right? He might play and just not be right, or he might play and hurt it more or hurt it again. So there are all sorts of gradations. But if you told me Mooney Ward is going to be the Mooney Ward we saw the first 5 games in this game, then yeah, that gives them a much better chance of making the secondary work and contending. And you're not going to totally shut down the Chiefs or Patrick Mahomes, but they don't always look amazing. They often do, and he often does. But there are times where they look, kind of off, and really at the end of the Bills game, we saw that.
Mike Silver, always great stuff. I don't know that I've ever heard anyone in the history of my life use the phrase "it's not my groin," but we just got that, and we're going to keep it. Thank you, Mike.
All right. Well, my groin and I will be in Santa Clara for those interested on Sunday, and I will be. I'm sure I'll be getting lots of love before the game from Andy Reid and all those people on the Chiefs sideline. And, it's nice to be loved and respected. So I'm looking forward to that.
Make sure you stretch out that groin before you, happen to take that lead.
You know that.
Thanks for telling everybody where you're going to be. Look how far we've come in this conversation.
Exactly.
Mike, thank you so much, my friend.
Thanks, you guys.
All right.